Okay guys, I'm going to teach you about the human heart today. So you're going to be using page 41. What I want to show you to start off with is the human heart has 4 chambers. So I'm going to use this highlighter and I'm going to highlight each of them, okay? So that's one chamber. Here is another chamber. Okay, that's our second chamber. Here's our third chamber and our fourth. And chamber just comes from that French word chambre for room. Okay, so that's all it means. It means we basically have 4 rooms in our heart. Okay, we have 2 atria and we have 2 ventricles. So the top 2 chambers are going to be our atria. So this is your right atrium, right here. Right atrium. And then if you go across, the top chamber on the left side is the left atrium. All right, and then down here we've got the right ventricle. So this is the right side of the heart. If I wasn't limited in my videotaping, I would show you that if you pick this up and put it on top of yourself, so if you actually put this on top of yourself, this will be on the right side, this will be on the left side, okay? Facing towards a mirror, for instance. Then you'll understand why this is the right side and that's the left. So that's the right ventricle. And then right here, that is our left ventricle. All right, left ventricle. Now, what I want you to know is this. The right side of the heart has blood that's low in oxygen. So we've got right side equal to low oxygen concentration. So here we have blood returning from the body that has donated its oxygen to body cells. And so then what happens is the heart is going to pump to the lungs. And when the blood returns from the lungs, it enters the left side of the heart. And so at that point, we've got high oxygen concentration because we're going to have gas exchange occurring in the lungs, okay? So we go right side to lungs to left side, okay? And so we've got low O2 and high O2, all right? And that's part of what's happening here. So in order to get oxygenated, in order to keep blood pumping through the body, really that's what the heart muscle is doing, it's taking blood in from your body, all right? And blood that's coming from anything above the heart enters via this vein here. And that vein is called the superior vena cava, okay? And you see the root word vein in there, which is vein. So veins bring blood to the heart, arteries take blood away from the heart, and that's something you would have learned when you read your textbook. That's the superior vena cava, taking deoxygenated blood into the heart from anything above the heart, so like your right shoulder. And then this is the inferior vena cava. Excuse me, sorry. Inferior vena cava. And this is blood that's coming into the heart from anything below the heart, so like your left knee, okay? All right, so blood is going to enter, and it's going to enter into the right atrium, whether it's below or above. And then from there, blood will go through the right atrium into the right ventricle. It enters the right ventricle through a valve, and the valve is right here, okay? And that valve on the right side, you might have called it something different in healthcare, but I'm going to call it the tricuspid valve. Biologists tend to call it the tricuspid valve. It has 3 little holes that open and close and allow blood to go in one direction, but not to leak back in the opposite direction. Okay, and the reason we don't want blood leaking back is because if we're going to go to the trouble of oxygenating our blood, we don't want deoxygenated blood mixing with oxygenated blood. We want tons of oxygen being pumped off to our body, all right? So this is the tricuspid valve. It opens and then it closes after the blood moves through, okay? And then it opens and closes and prevents blood from moving backward. If any of those 3 little openings are open, that's what we call a heart murmur, okay? And depending on the severity, sometimes you might need surgery or a new valve put in there, but typically doctors are realizing that heart murmurs aren't a big deal and a lot of us have them, all right? And so that's the right ventricle there, okay? So that's our label for right ventricle. Now, separating the right side of the heart from the left side of the heart we have this tissue. So we separate deoxygenated blood from oxygenated blood, and that's different for humans versus a frog, for instance. So that's called the septum. Now the septum again serves the purpose of separating the right side of the heart from the left side of the heart. So in a frog, you might not remember this from grade 10, you probably don't, but a frog has 2 atria, but it only has 1 ventricle. So in other words, the deoxygenated blood and the oxygenated blood are both swishing around together, and that's what's going to pump to the rest of the frog's body. Okay, the energy demands of a frog are nowhere near that of a human, and so therefore it's okay for them to have that kind of a setup. But if you're a cheetah, for instance, you can't have that kind of thing going on because you need to be running quickly. And so we have a septum. Higher order animals, more complex hearts, have a septum dividing right side from left side. All right, so we go back here to the right ventricle, and then blood is going to move in this direction. So actually I'm going to take advantage and I'm going to do this in a red pen. Okay, and blood is going to move out in that direction. Now, after it goes through the right ventricle, yes, it leaves via another valve. So here's another valve here. This thing here is a valve. And that valve can be called the pulmonary valve, or it can be called a semilunar valve. You can decide what you like best. It doesn't matter to me. Semilunar because it looks like a half moon. Pulmonary because it's going off to the lungs. Now, notice the blood is going to go through here. So now they're closing the tube on us in the diagram, and they're just showing us the tubes. Blood is going to go in that direction or that direction. And so these 2 vessels that are leading away from the heart, if we're going away from the heart, we know it's an artery. These guys are called pulmonary arteries. Oops, I don't want you guys to think it has to be a different color. So that's your left pulmonary artery. And this is your right pulmonary artery. And so today, if you haven't learned it before, you need to know that pulmonary means lungs. Okay, so I just wrote pulmonary equals lungs. So this is going off to the lung. Why do you have 2? Because you've got a left lung and you've got a right lung, right? So this is going to the left lung, that's going to the right lung. Half the blood is randomly going to go in this direction, half is randomly going to go in that direction. And then once we get to the lungs, we have gas exchange going on there. Okay, so this is where we're going to get rid of our excess carbon dioxide, and we're going to be refilling as much oxygen as we can into that hemoglobin in the red blood cells. And when that happens, then we're going to have blood returning via these guys. So you have, whoops, I didn't put artery there. Okay, left pulmonary artery, right pulmonary artery. Arteries go away from the heart, and usually arteries are very rich in oxygen. These guys are an exception to the rule because they're really low in oxygen. And veins are usually carrying very deoxygenated blood, and in this case, when they come back from the lungs, they're extremely high in oxygen. So this would be a test question I'd ask every now and then, a thinking question. If we were writing a regular paper test, I'd say which arteries and veins are the exception to the rule in the human body, and it's these guys, okay? So these here are your right pulmonary veins. So right pulmonary veins. This is coming back from the lungs, and this is coming back from the lungs as well. And those are your left pulmonary veins. So if you want to write coming back from the lungs, it's not a bad idea. Pulmonary, veins. And so blood will come in this direction, okay? And then what you can't see is the blood will go under these 2 tubes, and it will be in here, and this one you can probably see there are some little gaps there, maybe you can't. Blood is going to come back from the lungs there into the left atrium, which we've labeled. And then between the left atrium and the left ventricle, you have another valve to prevent backflow of blood. And this one here is the bicuspid. Okay, bicuspid valve. Again, in healthcare, they usually use the word mitral valve for these guys, one of them. If you like that better, it's perfectly acceptable to me. Bicuspid valve has 2 openings that open and close, which lead into the left ventricle. And then after blood is moved into the left ventricle, it will contract, the ventricles contract, and they push blood out to the body. And before they push blood out to the body, we encounter our last little valve there. And you can call that the aortic valve because it's going into the aorta, or you can call it a semilunar valve. So again, whatever you prefer, aortic, which would be AORTIC, or semilunar valve because it looks like a half moon. Now, blood will go into this huge vessel here, okay? And this is your aorta. So the aorta is that major vein that's coming out of the heart. Okay, and these are the fact that you're seeing these divisions here, those are called the aortic branches, all right? And they branch off to all your major arteries, all right? So you've got your aorta branches or aortic branches of the aorta, okay? And the one thing I do want to mention to you, the last thing, is that as we go down, if you could take this here and go down, it would be the bottom of the aorta. So that's the descending aorta. Okay, so it's like the descending trunk of the aorta, and so that's going to feed things below the heart, right? That's the same tube on top. It goes through the heart, or not through, yeah, it actually does kind of go through the heart, but it goes behind, and then you'll see it over here. Okay, so what I want you to do now is just listen to the order in which blood travels, because that's really important for you to know. You can write this out, it's not a bad idea. Blood enters the heart from the superior or inferior vena cava, goes into the right atrium, passes through the tricuspid valve, goes into the right ventricle, passes through a semilunar valve, okay, or a pulmonary valve, and then it goes into the pulmonary arteries. So it'll go into the left pulmonary artery, the right pulmonary artery, but it'll go through pulmonary arteries to the lungs, where gas exchange occurs. Comes back with lots of oxygen, and it comes back and re-enters the left side of the heart via the left pulmonary veins, in which case it goes into the left atrium, through the bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle, through another semilunar valve, out through the aorta, and we would repeat the whole process again after that blood gives off its oxygen and picks up carbon dioxide. Okay, so that's part one of this lesson. On the back of that page, you will have another heart to label. All right, it's not great, but you can pick anything off of Google and label it, practice as many times as you want. What I want to show you, in addition to what I've already shown you, there are some things that you need to know here. The subsystems. Okay, we've done human blood. I thought I had a note for you guys here, sorry. Just give me a second, okay? And I thought I had a note on the subsystems here. That's your lab from the past. Right here, yes. So page 59, okay? So I don't want you guys to leave without knowing this. There are 3 different circuits of your circulatory system. So the pulmonary system is the one I just went over with you. It means blood goes to the lungs and comes back, okay? So that's the subsystem. We've just gone through that. The systemic circuit is what you would think about if I just said, what does blood do? So blood is pumped to body cells and then returns via the superior or inferior vena cava into the right atrium. The last system is one you might not think about, okay? So it is part of the systemic circuit, but I want you to be aware that you have special circulation, which delivers blood directly to the heart muscle. So in other words, the heart muscle is not allowed to steal oxygen for itself. All this beautifully rich oxygenated blood is traveling through the heart, but it's not able to take it. So the blood, the circulatory system has to feed the heart, and it does that via coronary arteries. So if you've ever heard of a coronary artery, these are the arteries that go away from the heart and feed the heart. Okay, so that's page 59. I just want to go back to that diagram, and that's why I'm kind of pausing here. This is what made me want to do this with you, is this picture here on page 43. I always show my students, these are the coronary arteries, okay? So if you could see a picture of a heart, and you can anytime, you just have to Google it, you will actually see your coronary arteries there, okay? So you've got a left coronary artery and a right coronary artery, and they branch off as well. And what are they doing? They're branching into capillaries, and that's where your heart muscle is currently getting all of its oxygen from. If you get a blockage in this, that's when you have a heart attack, okay? Or myocardial infraction, they call it now. But blockages in here, that's what we call a heart attack, all right? Because that's blocked up. So that is pretty much what I wanted to do with you in this video. I'm just checking over anything else I pulled out. You've got this picture here. You can look at it just simply for education. You don't have to learn anything about that this semester. I think that, oh, right, EKGs, that's what I wanted to show you. Okay, so I've uploaded a video on an EKG or an ECG. They changed it from EKG to ECG. What I want you to know is this, be able to look at an ECG and know what these different waves are. Okay, so very quick lesson on this, and please do watch the video I uploaded for you. It's like 5 minutes at most, and it shows you how the heart contracts and the waves that are caused. So we've got a small wave which represents the contraction of the atria. All right, I'm going to color code this. That's why I paused. I want to do each wave in a different color. All right, so if I've got yellow, I can go over yellow. So we're going to go with yellow for the P wave. So when the heart is pumping, basically this is what happens. You get the contraction of the atria, blood goes into the ventricles, and then the ventricles contract and push blood off. So the atria contract to push blood into the ventricles contract to send blood away from the heart. So if it's the right side, it's sending blood to the lungs. If it's the left side, it's sending blood to the entire body, which is a really big pump, okay? So the P wave shows us how well our atria are contracting, all right? And then this is called the QRS wave. So I'm going to go over that in blue, which will make a green, okay? All right, so we're going to do the QRS wave in green. And the QRS wave is right here. Okay, and what you need to know about that is that shows us the contraction of the ventricles. Okay, so the P wave is the contraction of the atria. The QRS wave is the contraction of the ventricles. Why is this so much bigger? Because the ventricles are pumping away from the heart. This is just pumping within the heart muscle itself. And I know I'm saying just, like that's not something amazing. It is amazing. But the ventricles really have to have a lot of muscle and a really good push. All right, and then the T wave, if I go over that in pink, it'll turn orange. Okay, so we're going to do this in orange. The T wave shows you when the ventricles are relaxing. So that's our T wave right there. Okay. Oops, I meant to do that in orange. It's pink or orange, whatever you like better. Okay, so this little blip here on the ECG is when your ventricles are relaxing. Now, normally I would ask you, here's the question, why isn't there a wave corresponding to atrial relaxation? So think about what that question says for a second. All right, and now think about this. The atria contracting, ventricles contracting, ventricles relaxing. Okay, so there's electricity associated with the relaxation. Why are we not seeing when the atria relax? That's what the question is asking. We're seeing the atria contracting. We're seeing the ventricles contracting. We are seeing the ventricles relaxing. Why can we not see when the atria relax? It's because it's hidden right here, right? So when the atria relax, you're getting the contraction of the ventricles, and so it's hidden, all right? And so the answer to that, it's hidden in the QRS wave. All right, so that's the end of the heart, the human heart. I'm going to make one more short video for this unit on gas exchange. So you're going to need this page for you, and then for that, and I'm going to do it right now, and you will see it either on this posting today or on tomorrow's posting. You are, after this video here, you are done the animal unit. Basically everything I'm going to quiz you on the circulatory system will have been taught, okay? And then we're going to do maybe 3 or 4 important lessons in plant, and that'll be it. You've been very successful with the course.